From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your evening update.
Cascade Paint and Supply is Reading's oldest family-owned paint store, established in 1953. We are the largest Dunn Edwards dealer in the nation, and most of our products are made in the U.S. Our friendly and knowledgeable staff are ready to answer your questions and help you today.
Well, good evening, everyone. I want to start off with Kruger's Quickcast. You know, if you're checking in here, you may know I'm known for kind of going into some pretty in-depth reports with my weather, even when there's not a whole lot going on. But for some of you, you're like, you know, I don't have a whole lot of time for that. So I've developed Kruger's Quickcast just for you. We start off every weathercast, with the exception of the noon hour, because I don't go into a whole lot of detail there, and you can just get a quick weathercast here. All right, so we start off with what we expect here as we take you into tonight. All right, so temperatures are going to drop down a little bit on the mild side. We'll talk mid to upper 60s in the valley and in the mid 50s for the higher elevations, mid 50s for the coast as well. Heading out the door tomorrow morning, you know, maybe you're heading out for a morning jog or you have something going on to start off your Saturday morning, you're talking low 70s in the valley. And looks like in the low to mid 60s for most of the higher elevations. Most of the haze and smoke will be around Siskiyou County. I think even Modoc County could see some of that haze and smoky conditions in the eastern mountains. For the coast, yeah, still that fog and temperatures in the mid 50s. All right, let's take a look at that smoke forecast. You can see as we go into tomorrow, most of the smoke is going to push off to the north and to the east of the fire as we take you into Saturday. Kind of a bit of a carbon copy with that smoke from the last several days. Really carbon copy temperature-wise too, mainly in the upper 90s to the south end of the valley, a little over 100 degrees north end. Again, much like what we saw here for your Friday, of course, today, right? And then as we take a look at the hazy conditions here, temperatures for the coast should be somewhere in the low to with some mid 60s for some of those warmer spots here. All right, let's take a look at your 7-day outlook. We'll start off with the valley, and it's the downward trend in the temperatures. By Sunday, every one of the valley will be below 100 degrees. We'll keep it that way, even some low 90s in the forecast by Monday, Tuesday of next week. For the coast, yeah, no big changes, right? We're starting off the foggy conditions, dense fog, even some drizzle out there. Otherwise, some patchy clearing through the afternoons, and that's the next 7, even 10 days. But again, elsewhere, you're talking about a dropping cooling trend that is here going into the weekend, and in particular here for next week, and that's of course for the mountains as well. All right, let's before we get to that deeper dive forecast, do want to remind you that my primary fire coverage is in the morning. I do a little bit of a fire coverage with the latest fire perimeters in my morning update at 6 a.m. But I also go into more details with even the latest data coming in at 7 o'clock in the morning on Coffee with Kruger. So if in the morning you missed the live show Coffee with Kruger, you can watch the recorded version throughout the day, and you can at least check out the latest, most in-depth fire coverage that you will find here in Northern California, when we're really just talking about the fire perimeter, you know, the works, kind of zooming in on different locations, getting an idea, and on top of that, taking a look at the latest acreage as well. So again, that's Coffee with Kruger. Also, throughout the day, if you don't necessarily want to watch a video forecast, you can go to this section right here, the fire danger. This is all from weathernorcal.com on the home page, by the way. You click on that, you get the latest data coming on in. All right, enough of that. Let's get you into the headlines here. A cooling trend has begun. You may not have really noticed it because the temperatures haven't dropped a whole lot, but we have seen a downward trend. You're going to see a dip in our temperatures, especially the first half of the weekend. Even cooler by next week, but no rain in the forecast. That's not great, but what's great about that is typically this time of the year, associated with the rain, many times there's lightning strikes associated with it, and we don't need that. So we don't have any rain or even thunderstorms in the forecast anytime soon. So the main thing we're looking at here is any changes in the overall weather wind pattern. We're not seeing that. Yeah, a little breezy in some areas here through the afternoon, but that's normal. And that'll be the case going into your Sunday as well. Maybe a little bit stronger winds here for the valley as we do go into Sunday afternoon, but again, nothing unusual, nothing too terribly alarming. And the humidity levels, yeah, I mean, you can see here as we go into Saturday, they're still fairly low. Let's take you on into your Sunday, and you'll notice that especially to the south end here and even in the vicinity of the fire, we're seeing those humidity levels increase. And why is that? Well, because we're going to start to see at least a better drop in those temperatures here for those daytime highs on Sunday. And then on Monday even more. So we may even see these relative humidity levels go up a little bit as we go into early next week. And again, it's nothing major. It's still going to be dry when you really look at the grand scheme of things, but not as dry as the firefighters have been dealing with here really since the fire started. All right, so you can see the fire weather risk is actually dropping a little bit for your Saturday and even for the higher elevations, and it may even drop a little bit more for your Sunday. All right, so let's take a look at Futurecast. Now the fog is of course the big story along the coast. It does make its way into some of the neighboring inland valleys of the coast here, especially in the overnight and early morning hours. Now tomorrow, you see the afternoon cumulus clouds developing. Stray shower, not out of the question. Probably not going to happen, but something I'm watching. And then, of course, as we take you into your Sunday, let's take you through the afternoon here. You see the afternoon clouds popping up again, and, maybe a stray shower, maybe a stray thunderstorm. But again, I'm not putting that in the forecast. Be sure to watch Brian Wilson over the weekend. He'll have the latest on that for you. But there you can see here, we do have more of that fog along the coast. As I mentioned, there may be some spots that could see some patchy clearing, but that fog is fairly persistent here. What I'm looking for in the long range here is, are we going to see more of that monsoon moisture moving in? And this is all the way through the end of next week. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. So that's why I was talking about no thunderstorms, no rain in the forecast anytime soon. So what's happening is this, and I'm seeing some slight changes here this evening, but this high pressure is shifting down to the south and east. And that's what I was expecting here through the weekend. You see this dip right here. That's the trough of low pressure. This is fairly weak. And what's going to happen is that'll actually move out, but what we'll start to see happen is another ridge of high pressure will kind of build in from the south here, right? So that'll kind of keep our temperatures status quo. We're not going to see a major increase. We may see a bump up in our temperatures by around Wednesday of next week, but this cooler air right here, what's going to happen is it's going to dive down to the south. Now, it wants to move over us, but this ridge is kind of preventing that from happening. But what it's doing is giving us a bit of a squeeze play, unfortunately, because we've got this area of low pressure kind of diving down to the south a little bit, this area of high pressure just off to our east. What we could possibly see is a bit of a southwesterly flow of winds that could be a bit on the breezy side as we get towards the end of next week into that next weekend. We're looking at August 17th. Now, again, this is kind of the first that I've seen this since I've been looking at the long-range forecast model, so we'll have to kind of see if that pans out. But bottom line is this. We are going to be looking at much cooler weather here, below 100 degrees, below normal for this time of the year as we look at that long range going through next week. And in fact, the Climate Prediction Center is putting us in that cooler than normal category. There's the 10-day trend. Looking at Redding, I could look at all the 6 neighborhoods. It would just take too long. And this is just the overall trend that we look at for everybody to see that it's going to be up, and then we'll see it kind of tick downward. So for the valley in particular, the normal high is about 99 degrees, right? We'll be below that by Sunday and well below that by the time we get into Monday, Tuesday. There's that uptick I was talking about coming into Wednesday, Thursday, but then a kind of downward trend again in those low to mid 90s. So basically, on average, low to mid 90s in the valley through all of next week and even into that weekend. Here's a look at your wave heights as we take you into your Saturday. They're actually starting to lower a little bit. So if you do need to be on a small boat, looks like you're in better shape. However, by Sunday, we'll probably start to see those wave heights begin to increase. All right, so here's your forecast for tonight. Temperatures mid to upper 60s in the valley. We're talking mid 50s for most of the higher elevations, not to mention out along the coast. We take a look at your Trinity County neighborhood forecast. Temperatures will be in the upper 90s to about 100 degrees, so still a hot start to your weekend, but there you can see we're starting to see those temperatures begin to drop after that. 88 for Alder Point, 69 for Blue Lake, the coast, low to mid 60s. No big changes there. Inland areas, you're seeing that drop, low 90s throughout the weekend. 80s by the time you get into Monday, Tuesday of next week. Siskiyou County, you're looking at temperatures in the upper 80s and low 90s. There's those mid 80s by Monday and Tuesday. We take you off to Modoc County, where those temperatures are going to be in the mid to upper 80s, even some low 90s in there. And your Eastern Mountains neighborhood forecast, what we're looking at here are temperatures in the 90s here, but we are going to see a nice dip in those temperatures by the time we do get into Monday of next week in the upper 80s. And we take a look at your valley neighborhood forecast. Starting off to the south here, those temperatures should be, for the most part, kind of like what we've seen the last few days, kind of hovering around the upper 90 to around 100. Again, the bit of that south delta breeze keeps things a little bit cooler to the south. We don't get impacted by that delta breeze typically when it's weak for the north end of the valley. And that keeps those temperatures still about 130 degrees for Redding, 102 for Cottonwood and Red Bluff, a high of about 101. All right, so your 7-day outlook for Redding, yeah, we're finally dropping below 100 degrees by Sunday. Then temperatures low 90s Monday, Tuesday, mid 90s by Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Well, that's your evening update. Thank you so much for joining. Be sure to check in throughout the weekend with Brian Wilson. Well, he'll be giving you the forecast 3 times a day on Saturday and Sunday. Have a great weekend.
At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.